Howdy, how's it going? Welcome back, or howdy if you're new. Today, I'm going to show you how you can upgrade the NVMe drive on your brand new ROG Xbox Ally or Xbox Ally X. You can see here, I've already put in an 8 terabyte massive NVMe drive in here, and I've also already changed out the thumbsticks and the ABXY buttons. I've got a ton more mods coming, so definitely get subscribed if you like to see mods like this. If you also have one of the older Ally units, go check out my mod videos on those because I have a ton of stuff that you can discover there as well. So today I'm going to show you everything that you need to know to get your drive upgraded, or like I said, the thumbsticks. I'll have links below for everything that I recommend and everything that I use in this video as well. So let's get started. Alright, so here's the thing. If you're going to be buying one of these units and you want to upgrade the NVMe drive, there's definitely a few things that you should know. First of all, if you're coming from a previous handheld and you already have a large drive in there, yeah, you can definitely reuse that, but with one huge caveat. Do not just simply transfer the drive from one system to another for several reasons. First of all, there's different drivers, there's different registry files, and the settings and the power profiles and more. There's just a lot of stuff going on in the background of these devices that when you install Windows for your device and you install the drivers and everything, it kind of profiles it in that way for your device. So if I was to take the NVMe drive out of my Ally X and put it in here, which I have, by the way, I have tried it to confirm, you might run into a few little small quirks, and you also won't get the best performance that you could with just a clean, fresh install from either Cloud Recovery or your own version of Windows. Now, speaking of that, there's two ways that you can get Windows installed on here, maybe technically three. The first one is a Cloud Recovery system, which when you put a brand new drive in your device, it'll boot right into the BIOS and you can get into that Cloud Recovery. Very easy, very simple. It will download a fresh copy of Windows with Armory Crate, with my Asus, with all the drivers and everything needed directly onto your new drive. That's what I recommend doing. The second option you could do is you could buy an NVMe cloner. Now what this will do, it'll allow you to put your stock drive in the left and your new drive in the right. You'll hit one button, it'll clone everything one to one. So if you already have your stuff set up, you've already got your games, you've already got your OS exactly how you like it, this is the easiest way to do that. I'll have links below for one of these if you want as well. Now the third option, which I don't really recommend, you could use a Windows USB installer. The reason I don't recommend that is because sometimes it won't have the network drivers and it won't have some of the drivers built in that you need to actually go ahead and get started, and that does make the process a little bit trickier. Now the other thing I do recommend if you are going to do Cloud Recovery, pick up a dock. I'm going to do some dock reviews for these handhelds, so if you want to stay tuned for those, but I will go ahead and leave a few links to a few docks that I do recommend, and the main reason is because you get that Ethernet port on the better ones anyways. Ethernet is going to go a little bit faster for Cloud Recovery, and it's also going to eliminate any potential issues that you might have with your Wi-Fi router, because like 1 out of every 10 people might have just some weird random Wi-Fi issue, whether it's a signal issue or just the router itself is just kind of funky. That will help you out a ton to be able to avoid any issues, and you can basically just plug it directly into your router through the Ethernet and get Windows installed much quicker. All right, so now let's shut this down. I'm going to open up both of these units so you can see virtually they are the same, and then I'll install the NVMe drives, and then I'll also do a quick little tutorial on how you can get into that Cloud Recovery system. All right, so when it comes down to my NVMe drive recommendations, I put a lot of experience behind them because I want to make sure that you have a great experience, not only with meeting or exceeding what you should be getting in terms of performance, temperatures, and endurance, but I also want to make sure that if anything goes wrong with any of these drives, I can be confident that the brand is going to give you a good RMA experience with a proper replacement in a timely fashion. There are certain brands that I have worked with that have fully met or exceeded that, and there's also some that I've worked with recently that I will be removing from my drive recommendations simply because the RMA experience was absolutely terrible. Now, the rest of these drives on the table are just a small selection of some of the drives that I have currently, but I have worked with tons and tons of other drives and brands, and just, yeah, in general, I want to make sure that I speak from experience. Now, if you want the best overall recommendation for a 4 terabyte drive, just go ahead and get that 990 Pro. It's going to meet or exceed everything and anything that you could ever want and need, and it's just a great drive, and it will fit both of these devices perfectly. Now, when it comes to larger drives, like an 8 TB drive, fitment's a little trickier because most of these are going to be double-sided drives, and fitment, as you'll see in a few, is a little bit trickier and a little bit tighter on the Xbox Ally than the Xbox Ally X. So just kind of keep that in mind. But I will put a link below for a bunch of different drives that I recommend, and I'll try to make sure that I find you the best price and all that good stuff. So definitely check those out if you want to have a good up-to-date list. I'll also put another link in the description for a drive NVMe tier list, and that'll give you a very detailed breakdown of each individual drive. It'll show you the controller it uses, what type of cache, if it has cache, and so much more. And it'll also tell you if it's a low-end drive, a high-end drive, a mid-tier, and so on. It's very important to be able to know the drive that you're buying and to make sure that it meets and exceeds all those things that you should be looking for with a drive. But let's go ahead and dive right on in, and as we go along, I'll give you any other pros, cons, quirks, and features as far as fitment goes, and drive options, and cooling, and so on. All right, one thing that I also do recommend doing is turning off drive encryption before you start this process. Just in the event that you want to be able to use your drive externally in an NVMe enclosure, or you want to clone it, and you want to basically have the best success possible, I do recommend going into here under drive encryption and turning off that drive encryption. Basically, BitLocker or drive encryption is going to put a password on your drive to where you can't use it in another machine. It also kind of makes cloning sometimes harder. Usually it works okay for me. But if you ever run into an issue where it says that your drive is BitLocked and you can't boot into it essentially, you can log into your Microsoft account and totally get your BitLocker key and type that in. So it's not really a permanent thing as long as it's your drive, you own it, and you signed in that Microsoft account when you set that device up. You can still get your BitLocker key. So let's go ahead and shut everything down and I'll show you the process. All right, so on the back of both of these units, they're virtually the same. You've got 3 screws at the top. This middle one is actually a captive screw, which means it's going to get about halfway, and it's got a locking tab that's going to leave it on the back plate, so don't worry, it's not going to come out all the way. These 2 in the middle will come out the easiest. They do come out all the way. These 2 at the top sometimes like to stick. The ones on the bottom, very short, very easy to get out. So let's go ahead and get those out. I also have links below for some screwdrivers that I recommend. You could try those out if you like. All right, once you got to this point, here's the way I would open it up. You can start on the left or the right side. You can take your fingernails or a guitar pick and you can wedge them in, and it will help release some of those tabs. Then come up to the top, run your fingers along the top, and you can start to spread that open a little bit. If either one of your screws are still stuck in here at this point, you should be able to kind of tip it and get them the rest of the way out. If not, just be careful when you're pulling this back because they might kind of fling out at you. So go ahead and lay it down gently here. You can give it some little flex, kind of keep popping that up a little bit. You can come down here at the bottom. If any of them are giving you trouble, just wiggle from different angles and then it will eventually work its way loose. Then you can gently flip it here, paying very close attention to this ribbon cable. You don't have to disconnect it, but if you want to, you totally can. There's a piece of tape right here. You pull that back and there's a flipper tab, and you basically flip that lever and pull that out. Pretty easy to do so. Now let's open up this one so I can show you side by side. They're both the same. So inside of here, this is where your battery cable is. Now, unfortunately, I did get something wrong about the initial video comparing these 2 units. I did claim that the battery was the same, or at least the same form factor. However, I did not notice that the battery connector was different. I'll show you in a minute what I mean, but this is the only one with the updated revised connector. The Xbox Ally has the older style looking connector, so you will not be able to directly swap those batteries. I apologize. So the one thing that is nice though, you don't have to remove this battery cable. You can just simply slide it down out of the way. And then you've got 1 screw that holds on this NVMe drive. Go ahead and remove that. You do not need to unplug the power for this. I don't recommend doing it. It's just a little risky to be messing with that battery cable. It's just not that serious. You're not going to mess anything up, hopefully. You're going to be gentle. You're going to be taking care of your device, so don't worry. You don't have to remove the battery connector. It's not a requirement. Now right here, the stock drive they used is actually a Samsung drive, which is pretty cool. I think the other ones they had been using on the previous models were made by Western Digital, so it is nice. Now there is a little heat shield up here. You do not need to transfer that. Most of the drives that I'm going to recommend are going to come with their own heatsink anyways, so don't really worry about that. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to install the NVMe drive. It is very easy to do so. All you're going to need to do is to be able to line up these little tabs right here. line your drive up. Might have to lift it up a little bit, but go ahead and slot it in. You can push in gently, and there it goes. It clicks right into place, lines up perfectly, and you can go ahead and install the screw. It's going to be very easy to upgrade these drives. These are very easy. But you'll go ahead and put in the screw for your drive. You can move the cable back out of the way. All right, also keep in mind, any drive that I recommend below or any heatsink that I recommend below, I have verified that there is more than enough room for this battery cable to clear, and it is not going to be an issue. Now, even if the battery cable does touch the heatsink, it's not near enough to melt these or to damage these, so I don't think you should have any anxiety about if the battery cable touches the heatsink or not. It's just not that serious, so don't worry about it. I promise you, it's going to be fine. All right, so be sure you remember, if you are removing the ribbon cable, to make sure that you put it back in there properly. It's not too difficult. I'm gonna go ahead and just slot that in, lock that tab down right here, and then I'm gonna put my tape back, and now I'm good to go. And you can go ahead and put your back plate back on. Make sure you click everything into place. Go ahead and put all your screws back, and then remember, make sure that you plug your power cord back in before you turn it on, because there is a safety feature. There's a little light sensor inside these units that will tell if it's been opened up or not. So if you don't plug it back in, it will not power back on after you upgrade the drive. I always have to remember to say that because it's surprising how many people just forget. All right, so here's the inside of the Xbox Ally. A few key differences here I wanted to highlight. You've got the screw over on the left side for the NVMe drive, and then the battery connector is off to the right side. I did mention that earlier, that the battery connector, unfortunately, is different from the Xbox Ally X, so the battery swap at this time is just not going to be possible. But we do have plenty of room to pop in and out these drives without having to remove the battery cable, so that's pretty cool. So now I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and I'll show you the next little caveat to removing these drives. There is a little bit of a different type of heat shielding on the Xbox Ally, which is something that I really wanted to make sure that I cover here. First thing you're going to do is remove that screw. The best way to remove this, you've got your screw removed, you can come right here and you can pull this little flap back right here. Now this is basically just a little sheath. It's a heat shielding sheath that covers the entire drive, and it's attached with a piece of tape onto the board, like a piece of thermal tape or whatever. So what I did to remove this drive is I basically pulled the flap back, I grabbed the corner of the NVMe drive, and I just pushed all the way to the left to unlatch it. And I pulled it down, and now I can easily just slide the drive out. Now the cool thing about this is you could definitely just slide in another NVMe drive that does not have a heatsink built onto it, and it'll fit like a glove and it'll work perfect. However, I love using NVMe drives that have heatsinks built onto them, so I am going to show you the fitment and some of the caveats here in real time of fitting one of these and making sure it fits properly. Now the heat shielding that it does have, it also protects you from rubbing up against this, because some drives might actually touch this little heat sink for the mounting plate for the cooler. So you have to be mindful of that. You want to make sure that you're not rubbing your drive raw. If you've got a double-sided drive like this and it has a larger heat sink, it's possible that it won't fit. What you're going to want to do if you want to remove this little sheath altogether, you can just simply pull the little sticker, or you can remove the battery and pull it out altogether. I'm going to see if I can get this to, there we go. So I ended up getting it pulled out. Like I said, it's just held on with some tape. It is possible to pull it, just kind of give it a little wiggle and pull. You can get it the rest of the way out. So now let's test our 990 Pro. All right, so using a heatsink drive on the Xbox Ally is a little trickier than I anticipated, but it's still not that bad. I'm going to show you a few steps to set yourself up for the best possible outcome, and also give you a few things to kind of take note of. So the main thing here, if you want to use a heatsinked drive, you will need to take one extra step if you want to basically have enough room to where you're not being nervous. Go ahead and loosen up the screws for the battery. What this is going to do is to give you an extra millimeter of room on the side. So if you are using a heatsink that has some screws on the left side, it should be enough to clearance that. This is actually a pretty beefy heatsink, and I can make this clear. However, there is one potential thing to worry about. On the back side of some of these drives that have the memory chips on the back, these memory chips might run just a little bit warmer because you've got contact right here with the back side of that heatsink by the looks of it. Now that's not too big of a deal, because the normal operating temperature of these memory chips is still going to be within range where I do not think it's going to thermal throttle if you do have contact. So hopefully that's not a big deal, but I wanted to at least take note of it. Now, if you're going to use a normal NVMe drive that does not have a heatsink on it, this step and this worry is not really that big of a deal. Just, I still would recommend using a single-sided drive for this for sure. All right, so now let's test the 990 Pro. Slot that in like so. It's going to click right into place, and you can see I've got perfect clearance here, so I can tighten that screw down. There we go. Now I've got perfect fitment. I can go ahead and tighten my battery back down. Battery cable is completely safe where it's at. It's not going to be chafing. It's not going to press up against anything. It's going to be perfect. All right, so now let's change out to some transparent thumbsticks, and I'll show you how to remove the ABXY buttons as well. All right, I got a quick update on the Hall Effect joystick kits. Initially, my observations and communications were showing that the Ally X joystick modules were the same as the Xbox Ally and Xbox Ally X. But unfortunately, they are the same, but not the same at the same time. So the connector is the same, they will work, but they will not mount up and line up properly. So I'm going to show you here, I just traced out the holes from the Ally X and I kind of overlaid it here just to kind of give you an idea of how far it's off. It's not off by much. And then over here, I've got the Xbox Ally holes kind of punched out. And I'm going to try to overlay it here so you can kind of see it's off by just a little bit there. But they both look virtually identical, but things are just off by a little bit. So I'm hopeful that we can come up with a solution. If you have any suggestions, leave it in the comments below. Like I said, I am talking to Handheld DIY to see if we can come up with something. The only thing that I have thought of that might work is using a Dremel tool and grinding down the corners, and then maybe using a 3D printed adapter to hold these in place and to mount them up. I don't know if that's going to work or not because I don't know how far out these traces actually go for the PCB. So that's something that I think I'm going to leave up to Handheld DIY to figure out and let me know. And if I come up with a solution, I'm definitely going to let you guys know. So I appreciate your patience and understanding. I know it is a bummer because you can clearly look at these and they look identical. Just honestly, the only thing different was the holes. So that's a bummer, but I'm working on it. Hang tight, guys. Hopefully I have a solution for you soon. The process on both are going to be virtually identical, except there's one extra step on the Xbox Ally X, and that is because it's got impulse triggers. So you'll just need to remove these two wires. It's very simple to do that. I'll show you here in a second. But let's go ahead and swap out the thumbstick caps on the Xbox Ally first. So on both sides, you're going to have 3 screws to remove. This top screw is the longest, and these 2 screws at the bottom are the shortest. You'll have a little ribbon cable right here. You'll need to first flip that lever down before you get started to make it easier. Go ahead and flip that lever down, wiggle the cable out, and now you can go ahead and remove those screws. Be careful when you're doing this. Make sure it's propped up. You don't want to have this thing laying flat on a table because it will be putting pressure on the joystick itself, and that just makes the process a little harder. All right, once you've got that removed, go ahead and press the back side of that joystick and wiggle, and it will come out as one assembly. Now, putting the transparent thumbsticks in, there's 2 ways to do it. They're both a little on the trickier side because of the opening for the RGB module right here, that clear little RGB module opening. It's a little bit more narrow than the width of the top of this thumbstick cap. Now, one of the reasons I recommend not to use the metal ones or any of the other brands, because they can be a lot harder to work with because they're even more firm. But this right here, you should be able to press it through, especially if you come in at a little bit of an angle. Press that bottom corner in first, and then it will go in all the way. And pressing it back out, kind of like in the reverse order, also helps, coming in at an angle. Now, if you go ahead and locate it on the little tabs and try to push it down, make sure it clicks down all the way. and you try to set this in here now, it can go in still at that little angle, but you might actually have to come in here with your hands or your thumb and to push down on the top of that and kind of help it the rest of the way. It is a little bit of a process, but you can get it done. You'll also want to be careful with the mounting tabs right here and right here, because those have to go back in the little holes of the joystick modules. So be careful when you're putting it back together. You don't want to break those little tabs off. So there we go. Got it all back in place. When you go to put it back in, you want to make sure it's lifted off the table, not putting pressure on the joystick module once again. Equally tighten all the screws. Do not just start tightening them down. I like to get each one started first, and then I like to equally tighten them down. All right, so I've got them all started. Now I'll come up here to the top, get it almost all the way tight, and I'll just kind of go around in a little crisscross pattern. All right, so now your joystick module is installed. The screws are tightened down. You can go ahead and install your ribbon cable. Put that in there, flip the lever down, and you'll do the exact same thing on this side right here. Now this side has 3 equal screws, by the way. I thought one was longer, but it's not. Give it a little wiggle. Remember to make sure you remove that ribbon cable also. And pop that off. We can pop that on here. All right, so if you run into any calibration issues or rubbing issues where it feels like the top part of this is rubbing on the ring for the Ally, here's how to resolve that. What's happening is the thumbstick cap isn't able to sit down deep enough on this shaft, and there's actually a reason for that. On the inside, there's these 2 little bitty ridges, and you can see they're at the top and the bottom now. If I turn it to this side, they're on the left and the right, but essentially they're at the bottom. That's preventing this thumbstick from going down further onto this shaft. Now, essentially, this one, I've already removed those ridges inside. I just took a teeny tiny little drill bit and I only grinded down that small little part of the ridges. So it will now fit down a lot deeper on this shaft. So essentially I'll show you, and it's almost touching the notch. So if you put it back together and you get any type of rubbing up here, that's the quick fix for it. With these, I'm not getting any rubbing, but batches can vary, tolerances can vary batch to batch, and it's always a possibility, so it's something to watch out for. So when you go to put this back together, once again, remember, you can do it separately by putting that in there first. So I'm gonna actually show you how to do that, just to make it a little easier for you. You could take thumbstick cap, put it in there like so. Just be gentle, but you do have to put a little bit of force into it. There we go. Give it a little spin from the back side until you feel it lock in the right spot. Give it a little press. Be careful not to break your mounting tabs. You'll have to finish pressing it the rest of the way once you get the screws tightened down, though. Just so you're very careful with it. Now I can put my ribbon cable back in. Flip the lever down. Now I can come over here to this side and give it a little click. Make sure I'm not getting any rubbing. Check this side. Might need to give it a little click. Make sure I'm not getting any rubbing. And there we go. It's locked in place. No rubbing, no issues. Now let's move on to the ABXY buttons. The process on both units is virtually the same, with the exception of the Xbox Ally X having this one extra little impulse cable. So here's what you do first. Over here, locate your ribbon cable, flip it down, and then pull the ribbon cable out. Go ahead and remove the top 2 screws for the trigger module itself. Set those aside. You can take your trigger and remove the little piece of tape right here, and you can gently set that out of the way, so you don't have to remove the connector for that. It does make it a good bit easier if you don't remove the connector. The only thing left is these two screws right here. Once you've got that removed, you can take the little board out for the ABXY buttons. Keep in mind there is another little mounting tab or locating tab right here. These mounting tabs slash locating tabs make things a little tricky sometimes, so just sometimes you have to wiggle around it, and there you go. It'll pull straight up and out, and then you can take your ABXY buttons completely out right here, and you can swap them out with whatever you want, whether you're custom ordering some, 3D printing some, or getting some off of another unit like I did here. I took the ones off of the white Xbox Ally and put them on the black Xbox Ally X. I did that just because I think it looks kind of cool, having a little extra color there. Putting them back, it's only going to go in one way, and now you can put it all back together in the reverse order. So put that in there, remember your little locating tab, and then go ahead and put all the screws back in. Don't over tighten these, by the way. Finger tight is all you need. And put that in there. Always remember, equally tighten them and never over tighten them. You will run into an issue if you over tighten these and trip them or break them or cause any issues, so just be very careful. Now go ahead and put your ribbon cable back into place. Latch it down, and then you can put your little piece of tape back. All right, so that's it. Now we're going to put everything back in the reverse order. All right, and also remember, when you put the screws back in, do not over tighten any of these. You will rip through the plastics and you can cause some serious damage. There is zero advantage to having these things over tightened. You're not going to get any performance benefits by over tightening it or having crazy mounting pressure. So just finger tight is all you need. All right, so once it's all put back together, grab your power cord, plug it in the top, wait for the light to be illuminated, and you can go ahead and boot up. And if it's a brand new drive, it should boot directly into the BIOS. But if not, if you're using an old drive, a good pro tip is just start tapping that volume down button, and this will also bring you into the BIOS as well if it's an older drive and it's already got Windows on it and you don't want to use that. All right, once you're in the BIOS right here, you're going to hit the Y button, and then you're going to hit the right button up at the top. You're going to go down one, and that's going to allow you to enter cloud recovery. You'll just hit A to continue. Now right now I am using a dock that has Ethernet only because my Wi-Fi sometimes does weird stuff with cloud recovery, so I wanted to ensure I have the smoothest process possible. All right, so once you boot into cloud recovery, it's either going to ask for your Wi-Fi network and password, or if you're using a dock with an Ethernet adapter, it'll boot straight up into this cloud recovery menu here. You can go ahead and hit A to continue. So this first part right here doesn't take too much time. It's basically going to just download some of the initial files that it will need to get started. You can see right here it says confirm to continue. It's going to reboot. The next few steps don't take a ton of time, but once this thing actually gets started and it gets rolling, you're basically going to just set it and forget it and come back in an hour or so. The network speed really can change things up a lot, so if you have slow Wi-Fi, it could take even longer, but just kind of keep an eye on it. And if it's stuck at a screen that it needs an answer for, maybe it's telling you to click yes or continue, just kind of be around to do that. Now keep in mind it will reboot multiple times during this installation process, so don't be alarmed as it's rebooting, because it will do stuff like this. And some people might get alarmed, but that's completely normal. Just will keep rebooting and doing weird things. So right here, once you get to this screen, you're still not fully started yet in the cloud recovery. It's saying no update required. You're currently on the latest version. You're basically just going to hit OK. All right, you will get to this question also. It says, do you want to back up your files first? If you are on a new drive, disregard this message, but if you're on the old drive and you're doing a cloud recovery, you can go through and back everything up to an external drive. but disregard this completely if you are installing a new drive. So go ahead and just hit no. It says, are you sure you want to start the cloud recovery process? Hit yes. All right, this part of the process does take quite a bit of time, sometimes an hour or so, really depends on your network. Once it's done, you'll basically be greeted with the install/setup screen that you normally would get on a fresh brand new Ally. It'll basically walk you through the setup process of registering and typing in a username and all that good stuff. Once your device is back up and running and cloud recovery is complete, do not forget to check all the places for updates. This will ensure you get the best experience and the best performance possible. Updates will be spread across multiple different apps, so always remember to check these places. Open up Armory Crate first. Go to Update Center, update everything in here. Be sure that you check it again because sometimes these updates go through, they get finished, and then another one comes in behind it. So be sure that you are checking multiple times. Once Armory Crate is finished, you've updated, you've made sure there were no more updates there. Go ahead and open up the My Asus app. Click System Updates, update anything in here, reboot, check again. All right, the next place to check is the Microsoft App Store. Be sure that you're checking this periodically as well because the apps like the Xbox app itself, Armory Crate, My Asus, a lot of these apps actually get updated frequently through the App Store. So you want to open that up, go to the bottom left corner where it says Downloads, and then look at the top right corner where it says Check for Updates. Just let it scan for updates. If there's anything that needs to be updated, be sure you go ahead and do that now. The next place and final place is the Windows Update itself. Hit the Start button, go to Settings, click on Windows Updates, and then over at the right side, check for updates. Now, of course, that's obvious, right? But there's one place that a lot of people miss. Click Advanced Options, and then Optional Updates. See if there's anything here before or after scanning for updates. Sometimes you'll hit Scan for Updates, and then you'll actually see something pop up in that optional update section. Sometimes it can be as simple as a driver update, sometimes a small security patch, or something major. But I do recommend keeping all of these places up to date to give you the best experience overall and the best performance as well. I've always done this with all of my devices, and knock on wood, I don't have issues. I don't have weird random problems with Windows. It just seems to work. So there we go. We got a few updates coming through. We've got a Windows 11 Insider Preview update, .NET Framework update, and then a security update. So those three things are going to update now in the background. Also, don't forget, if you changed out your joysticks, you want to recalibrate them. Be sure to open up Armory Crate, click on the calibration menu, and do it for the left and the right stick respectively. I'm going to start with the right stick. What I always do is I revert to default settings by hitting Y and hitting OK. I give it a little wiggle, hit A to continue, give it a little wiggle, just making sure that it comes back to center, of course. Hit A to continue again. And then I just follow the steps. All right, well, I hope I answered all the questions and concerns that you guys had. If there's anything that I didn't cover in this video, definitely leave it in the comments below and I'll address it on the next one or just respond immediately like I usually do. I appreciate each and every one of you guys so much. It means the absolute world to me to have you all here and showing all the support and the love lately. I greatly appreciate it. Also, huge shout out to the channel OGs as well. You guys are the absolute goats too. Now, if you ever want to show some love and support to the channel, please remember to use my affiliate links below. Those help out the channel at no extra cost to you, and they can even save you some money as well. If you want to use my coupon code CPPCTech, it'll work across multiple different websites such as JSOX, Handheld DIY, eXtremeRate, and a few others as well. But until the next one, guys, as always, I hope you have a good afternoon, good evening, or good night.